伝説を残しておられる方です。ですよね。とにかく英語が得意な方で、学生のトップと言っても過言ではないです。と言っても過言ではないですね。彼はなんと今年高校生徒会長とテレビデビューをしました。果たして本日はどのようなスピーチをしてくれるのでしょうか。さて、準備ができたようです。それではどうぞ中村さん。
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Have you heard the Japanese expression, May disease? In Japan, most schools and companies start a new year in April, and about a month later, quite a few people are exhausted from all their new relationships and experiences. Meeting someone new is indeed very exciting, but it can also be awkward. Likewise, when you first try something new, you may well feel hesitant about it. But don't you agree that learning new things and meeting new people is very rewarding? Let me give you 4 examples. These days, modern transportation technology allows us to enjoy gourmet meals from many different countries. I'd like to tell you, first of all, about one of my father's colleagues from South Africa. He has built a very international career in many different countries, including here in Japan. I think he is, as it were, a navigator of food. During his stay in his new country, he makes it a rule to buy, in a supermarket, grocery store, or wherever, some food item which is totally new and unknown to him, and then he eats it. Let's have a survey here. Who wants to do the same as him, eating unknown food items in a totally unfamiliar place? Could you raise your hand? Okay, about 5 people. Oops. I thought it was a rather dangerous habit. Can he really trust that what he's eating is safe? Contrary to my expectations, he rarely has trouble with this strange habit. He also told me a very interesting story about the Scandinavian cheese, Brunost. A long time ago, British sailors who survived the shipwreck found themselves on an unfamiliar coast and sheltered in an empty hut by the shore. They needed food, but there seemed to be nothing else inside the hut other than just many bars of soap. It was not until they were rescued, just before starving to death, that they found out that what they had thought was soap was in fact cheese. Don't you think we should be ready to eat anything, just in case something like this should happen to us? I think my father's colleagues run a unique way of enjoying food, gives him a very good way to easily learn about unfamiliar regions or people. Wouldn't it be nice if we could travel the world in this way, just by trying new foods? And here's another example of a navigator of wine. He is Mr. Fujiwara, my world history teacher here at Rakusei. As a world history teacher, as well as a tourist, he has traveled to many different countries, especially in Europe. One of his pleasures when visiting new places is trying interesting kinds of regional alcohol there. His adventure often starts at a local restaurant. As soon as he lights the first sip of his wine, he asks the staff about the winery. The next day, he visits the winery to buy the wine. His encounter with local alcohol even takes place when he's driving. When he was driving the suburbs of Avignon, he came across an interesting sign. It says, "This winery serves its product to the poor. He says drinking alcohol in his hometown really improves his taste. He shared with me the story of drinking Rhineland's white wine by the World. Although the wine seems too sweet for a connoisseur like my teacher, he says it's a precious, unforgettable experience. Finding something new on a trip to an unfamiliar place is always very interesting too. After bringing my interesting souvenir home, I sometimes think about how it could be used in my own life, not just as a knick-knack gathering dust. And by actually using it, I find out it's not so strange after all. This brings me to my third example. Do you realize that trying new things from other countries boldly and adopting them in your own life can often be seen in Shanoyu, Japanese tea ceremony? But isn't it an expensive hobby, requiring many special kinds of utensils? Actually, you can easily make do with local items. In other words, it's not at all strange or unusual to use foreign goods made for different uses into tea ceremony. These days, there are many Shanoyu navigators all around the world. Let me talk about our former club teacher, Mr. Tanaka, a retired world history teacher. He collected many photographs from other countries to use as tea utensils. Let me show you some examples of his foreign utensils. What is this? Can anyone guess what it is? Please raise your hand if you have any ideas. Please. Correct. It's an napkin ring from Greece. How about this? Anyone? It's a cup from Morocco for drinking tea. How are these foreign utensils used in Japanese tea ceremony? Can anyone have a guess? Actually, he rests the bamboo ladle on them. Since when have Chanoyu masters have done this? Surprisingly, for hundreds of years, even during the 2 centuries of national isolation. Some of the traditional designs of water container find their origins even as far as Vietnam or the Netherlands. Lastly, I would like to share with you the story of a Chanoyu navigator who is contributing to charity and international exchange at the same time. She is Miss Morin, an English teacher here at Rakusei, who has helped me with editing this speech. For the last few years, she goes to Myanmar on every winter vacation to help schools there as an English teacher. In order to raise money to buy books and so on, she holds a charity chakai, tea ceremony, before she leaves for Myanmar. Last year, I had the opportunity to help her with the ceremony. The goal of the chakai is not only raising money. She tries her best to use folk crafts from Myanmar. Here are some examples of Myanmar utensils. This small silver accessory box makes a perfect tea container. This tall lacquered spice container comes in handy as a tea container too. This water container on the back, this black one, is also Miss Morin's souvenir from Myanmar. Can you guess what it is? It used to be a arms ball. Of course it didn't come with a lid, so uses a Japanese fan instead. Senmen buta. She chooses other items, most of which are the usual Japanese-made ones, so they would fit the Chakai's theme, Charity for Myanmar. By combining Japanese tea utensils and items from Myanmar, she succeeds in raising people's awareness and encourages further cross-cultural understanding. As you know, the customs of serving a beverage to show consideration can be seen all over the world. I think Japanese tea ceremony is a good example of international understanding because I have served tea and sweets to guests from other countries as a member of my school's tea club. The guests always love the experience of having tea. The spread of Japanese-style hospitality throughout the world, as experienced in Chanoyu, shows that all cultures treat guests with respect, and they recognize this same attitude in Chanoyu. In conclusion, the important thing for us is to be open to new ideas and new people. You don't have to be a Gulliver or Robinson Crusoe, or maybe John Manjiro, to explore the world in this way. Just don't hesitate to accept an invitation or to extend one yourself. You never know that something that looks like so might be a really delicious cheese. Just don't be shy. Give it a try. Thank you for listening to this long speech. Do you have any questions or comments, both in English and Japanese? Thank you for listening to my speech. ありがとうございました。
素晴らしいスピーチありがとうございました、正雄さん。彼の英語は多分落成ではトップクラスだと思います。すごかったですよね。明日彼は社会で、差し入れ盛んに手伝いされています。中村さんにもっと話が聞きたい方、英語を習いたい方、ぜひ行ってみてください。それではこれからこの企画を制作している